you can't change the human element. So that's my strong opinion. And that's where I think as hospitality, we do shine as you said it, right? Like we all got into this more for an experience or more for the love of hospitality. We didn't get into this because we like a PMS, And so I think that tech can grow and evolve, but if you don't have the people backing it that you can really trust, I think that's where the stickiness comes in our industry specifically.
You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Wil Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. All right. Good morning, Slick Talkers. Today, I have Jasmine Seliga, who is the co-founder of Affixify, a platform that helps hotels and hospitality professionals efficiently evaluate and connect with technology vendors. This is a hot topic, Jasmine, as I think everyone in hospitality is over inundated with tech.
Yeah.
So let's jump in. I want to hear more about you and your story before we go into Affixify. Where does everything begin for you? How did you get into hospitality?
Oh man. Okay. I like that. Buckle up. No,
Here we go.
So I've always been in hospitality and that's interesting how this happened. I went to any of my Texans on the call. I went to Baylor University, Waco, Texas, go Bears. And I had a very strong passion and I was very determined that I was going to go into medical sales, which is so funny now. And so leaving college, I was interviewing, I'm trying to break into these different jobs. And I even interviewed with like an accounting software in Oklahoma to see if I could get experience there, whatever. And now I think it's providential. But at the time I was so frustrated and I could not get a job. Now, this was also leading into recession and things we couldn't foresee. So it was just hard. And I called my dad one day I'll never forget, I'm in the parking lot of the university. It's, December timeframe. And I said, I just cannot secure a job. And I'm a worker. I've been working since the day I was legally able to work at 16. And my dad said, or 15 or whatever. And he said, well, you can't move home without a job. So what's your plan? And so he calls me later and said, I have a connection to a marketing company. They do marketing for hotels. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the job? And he's like, intern. And I'm like, Dad, very entitled.
Like intern or unpaid job.
Yes. And he actually said the words, you don't have any other options. So I find you, he's like, I found you a job, paid internship. And I live him for that now. So I move home. Very long story short, I graduate college on May 12th. May 14th, I started this company. So this company is called Digital Alchemy. Many people listening will know it. And we did marketing software for luxury boutique hotels. And what started as an internship, I ended up in the end of it all, the VP of sales for that company and helped sell the company to Travel Quick and ultimately Amadeus. So my big plans to break out into this other industry were completely changed. Pretty much, I think 2-3 weeks into that, I was told you're going to high tech in Baltimore. And I'm thinking, what? I didn't even know anything, but because of the kindness of my CEO at the time, I stayed. I never wanted to leave our industry. So that's kind of my fun backstory of how I got here, at least into our industry.
I love it. And that's quite the journey, I would say, because Amadeus is no small giant in our industry when it comes to hotel technology. So where does that lead you into the moment of Affixify? Because obviously developing your own algorithm to matchmake technology and hoteliers and like all this stuff, it's no easy feat. So how did that kind of ideation come about?
Yeah. How did I go from intern to where I'm at? So when we sold to Travel Click, and then, so I guess I have to weave in one personal detail here is I had 2 back-to-back babies. So I have 3 sweet little boys at home. Those first two were born in 1 year apart, and we had 2 acquisitions. So like by the
Wow.
time Amadeus acquired, I mean, I'm just tired, So I end up stepping back on my own. They were wonderful to us as a team during that whole process. And I just needed a moment. And I always tell people this because that I wouldn't have been here if I didn't do that. So in that moment, right, that 18 months I stepped away, I did not work at all. And I got an offer from my co-founder, Stephanie, to help with some consulting work at her company. And I started to think, well, I could do this. I could consult, and that really is a way to use the things I love and my experience. Well, as I started consulting, I started getting a lot of inquiries from software companies asking me, do you know any hotels looking for our technology? How can you connect us? How can we set up a partnership? And so that's where my idea came from is, by the 5th, 6th, 7th conversation of a vendor saying, please help us join our ambassador program, whatever, I started to realize there's a real need in our industry. And that's not even touching the hotelier need, right? Hoteliers need to navigate technology. So I had this crazy idea of Affixify, and that was November 2021 that I said, we need to do something about this. And it took, we're a bootstrap company, so it took all of till June 2024, if you can believe it, for us to fully launch. But in that time, right, worked with my team, got a developer on board, and here we are. So that's kind of how we got here.
Walk me through these last 3 years then. So from 2021 to 2024 June of this year, that's a lot to build. So what does it look behind the scenes, I guess? What does the behind the Wizard of Oz curtain look like when it actually comes to building something like this? Because I do know how much of an issue this is. Not only did you see it from the inquiries coming in, but I just know how many hoteliers or any hospitality entrepreneur that is running a property or multiple properties, they're always asking these questions in the sense of technology, efficiencies. How do you make sure that they're actually good partners and they integrate with each other? They're not just going to tell you it's on their roadmap in the next 6 months to do this feature that you really need. Like there's so many pieces that go into it. So you've had to build out this whole technology piece that can actually matchmake and kind of, I hate to steal your quote when we did our pre-chat, but like kind of be like a Tinder for hotel tech.
Yeah.
So, or like maybe a Bumble is a better app to reference rather than Tinder, because Tinder sucks. But that's just my personal opinion as a single dude who is trying to date in Denver. But yeah, I just think there's so much to build behind the scenes, especially if you're bringing on a developer and you're building this team without even going to full market. So yeah, kind of give us a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because I think it really is kind of this, when you're a startup, and especially for what we're doing, it's really cool to get the level of traction we've gotten so quickly, but that doesn't come without a lot of work on the back end. So honestly, what makes us tick is this whole validation process that we have, where we actually so let's just start from the beginning. A vendor's interested, right? A vendor wants to be listed, so to speak. We don't just give the vendor free rein to sign up and go add their features to be matched to a hotel. We validate those. So kind of like imagine a dream dating app that validated like, oh, you say this is your job, or, this is whatever. I've actually never been on a dating app, but we validate the things that they say are real, and then they can be part of the platform. So that takes, as you can imagine, an arduous amount of energy for the team, but it's very worth it. And we've had advisors say you should drop that because that's a big task. How do you scale that? But we really don't have an interest in dropping that because it creates that trust. So behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes on to even get someone listed in the platform. And then honestly, the real interesting part is that we're in an industry that is a little bit technology shy. We know this. I think other industries are a lot quicker to adopt for hospitality. It always surprises me that even though we're kind of this middleman helper platform, it still takes hoteliers time to adjust to the idea that like they can log in and try us out. So there's just a constant chicken and the egg of us making sure we have the right vendors, but we're also building that hotel volume. And I don't know if that answered your question, but it's a lot of work. Plus making sure that we're open to new ideas, new ways of doing things. We're an agnostic tech, so our algorithm can be used in any industry, which is cool for the future. But obviously, we want to stay focused in hotels right now.
All right, Slick Talkers, sorry to interrupt. As you know, Great partners at Minut have sponsored this episode. They sponsor the show. So every episode is filled with amazing minutes. No pun intended. So if you don't know who Minut is or what they do, we see that we have a lot of new Slick Talkers out there in the world. So one, thank you for tuning into the show. Every listen, every time you hit play means so much to me and to my team. So thank you. But if you are new, Minut is an amazing noise detection device. Not only do they measure noise decibel levels inside of your vacation homes or your hotels, they actually can detect smoke. Not only that, if you're an outdoor kind of a unique stay person or just have an amazing outdoor amenities for your guests, from pools to hot tubs to cookout pads, all the stuff, they have an outdoor sensor that is specifically made for outdoor noise, because I didn't know this, but noise outside and noise inside actually makes a difference. So you don't have to worry about constantly making sure, are people partying at your place? Are the cleaners there? Or like whatever, kind of issue might happen, you can get that peace of mind with Minut at your side. So as you grow, Minut will grow with you. They have an amazing team of support, and they have an amazing technology from hardware and the software. When the two marry, it's just a beautiful combination. We use Minut in all of our vacation homes and hotels with our management company, and it's the best decision we've made because we are so dispersed and we are so spread out that having Minut just is a necessity for our operations. So get with Minut, go to the link in the show notes, let them know that Will from Slick Talk sent you. They'll give you a sweet deal. And of course, you know the drill. We're back to the episode, and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I am going to steal your dating app verification idea, by the way, just 100%.
We should do it.
I think it's totally worth it. I would sign up today.
Okay, I'm good.
But this, yeah, you're just like, all right, let's.
I'm like, new idea. Let's use it. Yeah.
Yeah, go sell it to Bumble, make your money, keep building Affixify, retire on the beach, who knows, whatever you want to do. No,
Dreams.
but I think it's such a good way to portray or even approach this type of solution, because if anyone can just list, right, what their features are, what this is, everyone's going to start to look the same. And I think once you start going down the discovery rabbit hole, you're going to realize they're not, and they don't have that. And I think that's super disappointing as a hotelier or someone who's shopping for something, right? Like if you're shopping for a new property management software or a new dynamic pricing software or whatever the software or IoT is, it can be disappointing to have this expectation in your head of this is what I'm going to get to see on a demo or a sales call or whatever, and then not actually see it. So it's good that you guys have that verification process in place. And I don't think that's something that should be removed. I think that's actually kind of what stands you guys apart. Yeah. Anyone can create a free listing site, but I would love to know how you think about a two-sided marketplace. So you have the hoteliers and you have the technology providers. How do you, does your algorithm help you be a little bit more unbiased? Like, what's your guys' overall thinking around this?
Yeah, I love that question. That's like my other passion in life is unbiased opinions. I think we're just riddled with a pay-to-play market. And honestly, I'm going to just veer a little from hospitality for a second. You go on, and I'm an Instagram user, so I'm guilty. Half of the products I use every day come from influencers. But we unfortunately have created this market as consumers, or we've accepted it rather, of being told what to buy, knowing that someone's being paid to tell us that. And I think that has unfortunately bled into business and these marketplaces. And so one of my passions is, well, yes, I might buy skincare from my favorite influencer knowing they get paid. We don't get paid any certain amount of money to make a better match, right? So let's go to the dating scenario. You would hope that the person you're taking on a date through this app is because you're a real fit, not because they said, I'll pay extra money to this app to make sure I meet Will, right? So for us, we do not allow the vendor to pay more money and say, oh, Affixify, I'll pay you double to make sure I get 100% match, with a hotel. That's not how that works. And so for us, the algorithm, it's truly just a match. It is, do you have what this person needs? If you do, you get the highest percentage. And we rank them start to finish. So any vendor listed in that category, they get ranked on the results page. So the hotel has a way to truly trust the data. And we don't do anything pay to play at all. So it's a challenge. It sounds tempting, I'm sure, to, you read the top 10 lists and all these things of who's the best PMS.
Yeah.
Well, who paid to be on that list? Unfortunately, that's kind of how it is. So we're fighting that battle. But people love it. I think people are ready for something unbiased, for sure.
How accurate do you feel when you like? How accurate do you feel like those articles can be sometimes? Do you look at those and be like, definitely, like, I know this technology. I know they did not get first place or third place. They should be 10th, because in all reality, we all know not all tech is the same tech.
Yeah, it's very subjective. That's how I feel about it. So I've sold tech my whole career. What might work beautifully. I mean, so example, right? Personal example, years ago, I sold our marketing software to a luxury group of resorts. And it was just a ton of development to get them where they needed to be. Now, we knew going into that deal that they knew development. We had like a whole meeting in person, blah, blah, blah. But the platform we were selling out of the box was a perfect fit for like a 5-star independent, but not a perfect fit for a big group of 5-star independents, so to me, those lists are very misleading, because the PMS that's going to work great for this hotel is not the same PMS that's going to work great for the one, that's 3 times the size and has many outlets. So that's how I feel about those. I think they're misleading in that the top PMS for one hotel is not going to be the top for the other. And I think we're kind of kidding ourselves if we think there's a one size fits all. I could go on a tangent, so I'll stop there.
We love tangents on this show, so I'm all in for it. I have a friend who was kind of pitching me this idea. We both watch a lot of YouTube content. We have our favorite, creators and shows and people that we follow on YouTube. And we were talking about tech review channels, because I watch MKHB, or his name's Marquez, and he's the biggest tech reviewer on YouTube. So he's gone to a lot of Apple stuff and built this huge platform. And I love his content, but we were also kind of like, because he's like, I don't send my reviews of like a product or a software to the company before I post it. I do not accept payment for review. I don't do so he does a lot of these things, and his audience is known that like he gives he's not like, he uses iPhone and Androids. He's not like a one-sided person when it comes to tech. And my friend and I were talking, and I would love to know your opinion on this. We're like, could there ever be a tech reviewer in the hospitality industry that wouldn't be somewhat biased to a certain platform? Do you think something like that, do you think there could be an honest tech review overall in the industry that outside of Affixify, right? Like, I think maybe Affixify could launch his YouTube channel. This could be kind of cool. But anyways, just a thought.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to be honest, I think there's consultants that want something like that. We have a subset of consultants that are really hungry for things to be fair and done right and done well. And these are big hitters. These aren't like, just starting out. And I think someone like that who's willing to give unbiased, honest reviews, because I also think what comes with that, just like an iPhone, if you want the iPhone for one thing, it's going to be great, but I don't have exact examples, but you're going to have some things that does really well and your review is going to be 5-star, and some things that you're like, it's not that great at. So I don't know. I think to have someone do that, they would have to have the history of use, right, in multiple scenarios of one platform. And they would have to have some kind of creed to the industry saying, we're truly going to do this unbiased. We've even talked about a creed, I don't know, on our website, where we promise the industries that we work in that to remain unbiased is just like a little accountability. But yeah, I think it would be a great idea. And I just think people are hungry to push past marketing, because the bigger companies, and I love them, they're our customers too, but they have tons of marketing dollars. And then you have the baby companies who have a wonderful product, but they can't break in because they can't compete. And gosh, even if you Google tech, your SEO comes into play. So how do you really know? It's just a tough thing. And I think it's getting worse. So we're kind of the David and Goliath. We're the David out to try to make something happen here and make things easier. Sometimes it feels that way, but we're catching on. So
definitely. Well, I think the approach of having an algorithm that can actually do this is a lot better than a human, just for the sake of like, you have no choice but to be unbiased, right? Like, it's just going off of data. And that's sometimes what we need. You just need the data rather than any personal opinion or persuasion in any shape or form. But Jasmine, one of the questions I kind of queued up for us today that I was really curious about to hear your take on was, what do you think some of the biggest mistakes or oversights you see hotels make when building out their tech stack or shopping for a new tech provider on a certain category?
Okay.
Because I see this all the time. I talk to friends who are like constantly shopping. Yeah. They're all like, yeah, we tried this, we did this, and we did this PMS. It was great until then we actually realized it wasn't. We were sold this way. And so I would love to hear what your thoughts are.
Okay, I have so many thoughts. We should have made this like a 2-hour. No, I'm just kidding. A movie, right?
Hey,
not
we can go Joe Rogan style. Let's go. Let's go.
Total. I will listen to a 2-hour Joe Rogan podcast any day. So first thing, just off the bat, and this is funny, it's going to go a little counterintuitive to Affixify, but I don't care because it's the truth. People do not go and look at what they currently have. It drives me nuts. So I'm going to use another illustration. My mother-in-law taught me something that I love. And she's like, before you go shop, because on the side, I love home design, random. I love to go shopping for house decor. And she always taught me, you need to shop your own house, right? Like go shop what you already have and use what you have. So I'm going to relate this. A lot of times we get caught up in the cool marketing and what you see on LinkedIn and what you see at the trade show. And you're like, well, we obviously have to replace our PMS now. Except people are not following the upgrade track of their current provider. They're not waving the white flag saying, I'm actually going to go look and let their provider have a chance to come back and pitch what they're doing, what's on their roadmap. So I'm pretty passionate, which again, this is doing nothing for my product because we benefit when people come shop. But the truth is evaluate what you have first. And I think a lot of vendors have small teams and they're not able to communicate as well as they should what's coming. Maybe they just signed a big customer and they're developing the exact reason you were going to switch. Maybe you could beta that if you're, I don't know, it's kind of a curse word sometimes in tech, but there's a lot of options. And so that would be number one. Evaluate what you have. I mean, I think if we're not doing that, you're at risk of blowing money you didn't have to spend. Next is, I think there is a problem in our industry, probably all tech, with these promises. I think rushing through the process is how I'm going to say it. So using a tool like ours that you can start your due diligence is great, but making sure that you don't let a self-imposed deadline or a corporately imposed deadline to have something implemented keep you from finding the best fit. That concerns me and I just talked to a hotel group couple weeks ago, and they said, we're kind of in this position where we have to replace our tech stack now because we've had to rush decisions because we're just so busy. So not really evaluating. And honestly, I will often refer hotels to consultants and say, between me and you need a consultant because you don't have the time to even identify what you need. And then I think you and I talked about this on our pre-call, is the whole shiny syndrome, thinking I need every shiny object syndrome. Like I need everything when really you only need a couple of really good things, and you need those to be good partnerships where you're embedded with the companies providing those tools versus buying the 30 platforms and killing your team trying to manage them. So that's what, if I had to name just a few, I think those are probably the biggest issues.
Yeah, definitely the shiny object syndrome, and making sure, because I hear all the time too, when people are just getting started, maybe like they're one property or two or three or whatever, and they're looking at scaling, and then they're going, well, I use this for my property management software and it has this great inbox feature, but then my operational software has this texting feature, but they also have a unified inbox I didn't know that they had, but I'm not going to use it. And I'm paying double for basically having multiple products that have multiple crossover features. And it's the biggest annoyance because I'm like, you guys are, as my friend Robin Cragen would say, like you're 20 bucking yourself to death, where it's $20 here, $20 there, $20 there. And then all of a sudden you're just like paying out the yin yang for, a bunch of tech that can probably be whittled down to 3 or 4 solutions that can help rather than the 30. But you said one other thing too that I realized. I worked front desk at a hotel. Did you ever work like front desk or housekeeping or maintenance or any of those fun positions?
No. I've always been on the provider side. I did work retail many years, if that helps. I've used a point of sale like nobody's business, but no, I've never worked in actual hotel.
Perfect. Well, I think you get it then, even with retail, because as an employee at the front desk or as a cashier register at 21 or Forever 21, you kind of get a baptism by fire. It's kind of like, here's the ropes, here's where everything's at. by the way, we have 600 check-ins today. Go get them, Tiger. Like, you got this. And you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And I've realized the same thing on the vendor side, or even like the operator side. When you implement a new tech, you're excited. It's a new property management software, a new dynamic pricing, operations, whatever. And then it's like a quick 30-minute onboarding, and then they just expect you to figure it out. And so like kind of a baptism by fire with implementation of tech. Do you think there's a better way that both vendor and operators can kind of, I don't know what the word would be, maybe defuse that baptism by fire with integration of technology? Like, what can we do better with actual implementation?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I'm going to call out our vendors for a second. And I only say it out of love because I have been one for so long. One thing I think could just immediately remedy this is stop charging, nickeling and diming your customers for extra training. And the reason I say that is that if you would just have the option for some kind of available training, we know hotels have higher turnover. So be prepared, know your industry, and be a good partner, and let that hotel use you for, I don't know if you agree on an hours per month or how the model would look, but I also think I think hoteliers resist kind of investing in that training because it does nickel and dime. Whereas if we could just have a true partnership and say, hey, you need training. If someone needs training on Affixify, we're not charging them, right? Like, we're going to show you how to use it because we only benefit if you use and love the tool. So I think just from a human perspective, I think offering more partnership opportunity for training would be really helpful. I'm just cringing thinking about that scenario and the poor person at the front desk. And then we wonder why we have staffing issues. But I also do think, yes, like integration, if you can, in your training, quickly learn your systems instead of things being so clunky and memorizing various logins, I mean, that's a huge issue too. And we already know that we're pretty antiquated in our industry with the amount of connections needed to keep a property running. So I think that even if vendor to vendor, they worked better together to make things very seamless. And, I don't know, I can't be their voice for this, but like if everything was more centralized and pushed into one place and made it more seamless, I think we'd see a very big ripple effect. If that answers your question, I think.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have a two-parter potential follow-up. Is more of two things, and they're kind of different. So the first one is with the technology ecosystem. I've had some people on the show where we've talked about APIs and distribution and the way that connection or like technology actually communicates between each other. Because when you have I look at, property management softwares all the time, and I'll use Muse as an example. Muse has a beautiful marketplace, right, where you can connect all these other providers, but their connection with, let's say, Wheelhouse, a dynamic pricing tool, may be better because Wheelhouse has a great API open connection. But let's say tier 2 dynamic pricing company doesn't, but yet they're still in the same marketplace. You're going to get a little bit different of an experience. Do you think the ecosystem within technology could be better, and what, in the sense of like how they communicate with each other and integrate? Because I think everyone's just kind of building and not realizing like, hey, there's this whole ecosystem of like your data is important for my business and my data is important for your business, and we should actually have like a more unified standard way of connection to each other. Is that something like, is there something out there, or like, am I the only one thinking this? Like, I would love to know.
You're not the only one. We hear it all the time. I think what the first issue is that tech companies come to market with how do I say this? Their tech is so cool first mindset, not integration first. And the problem is what they quickly realize is I might have a really cool tool that can help the hotel, but the first thing the hotel is going to ask is, does it integrate to my PMS or my point of sale? Or, how does this integrate into my other systems? You can't stand alone in a silo. So we end up with a lot of cool technology, and we are not able to connect that in a good way. And then what I found through the years is then the dev teams come together and do quick patchwork. Like, let's just create a connection that works so we can satisfy the request. But it is not at all regulated. So to your point, you might have 4 different options in that marketplace, but each of those options is one is not like the other, right? Like they each do different things. So, and we deal with that too, because we've talked about like right now, how do we even list that? Like, how do you even, is it a feature that we say, hey, this is the type of integration available. This is not, I don't know. I mean, that's a deeper conversation, but I could even see, and I think they've tried to do this. I don't think it's ever really come to fruition, but some kind of standard would be awesome that everyone has to follow so that it's streamlined across the board, across the industry, because it's a really big problem. And we hear it all the time. And it's very frustrating for the hotel.
Yeah, 100%. It's the most frustrating piece, I think, of operating a hospitality business, because I know, and we've said this on the show many times before too, but a lot of people, I would say, let's give a rough guesstimate, 98% of people get into, I'll go a little bit lower. 90% of people get into hospitality to create moments. Some get in for real estate, some get in for other reasons, but 90% kind of like accidentally fall into this because we love people, we love creating experiences, you get to work with a team. It's lifestyle kind of business, because I didn't grow up traveling in hotels, so like get to stay in a hotel or work in a hotel was always great. But no one got in this business to become an IT professional or a tech provider outside of the vendors who actually create technology. But from an operator standpoint, they're over inundated with all this technology. Do you think, like, is there how can hoteliers get better with technology without having to create a full IT department, basically? Because I think the technology that is being created sometimes can go over people's head when it comes to, especially now with AI. So I know I'm kind of asking multiple questions, but to restate it just for the listeners is, how can hospitality professionals stay current with emerging technologies, even if they don't have a dedicated IT department? That's the big question there.
Yeah, I really like that question. So we were just at the hospitality show last week, and we sat down with the CIO of a very well-known group who's just wonderful to give us their time on a regular basis. And the topic was, for people that don't have, like a big staff to go out and manage this, using the resources available to them. Honestly, I posted yesterday a list of not all free, but mostly free resources for people navigating tech decisions. I think you have to treat it like part of your job is staying up to date. And that's through, publications. That's through, honestly, keeping up with LinkedIn, keeping up with podcasts like yours. Like, it is a bit of a self-education. I think advocating for room in your budget every year to make sure you get to be at relevant conferences, not just to see current vendors. I see that as a kind of an issue too. I love conferences. I think hoteliers get inundated with, can we meet on the show floor and this, and then do they even get to go to these, what am I trying to say? Like their sessions. So all of that being said, I think it is about staying relevant, staying up to date on your own. And then, this is really a plug for us, but I'm not even trying, using tools like us, because we're totally free to say, I can't hire, because some people can't even afford a consultant, right? But I do want to use a tool that can help me be unbiased. But yes, if you can afford a consultant, do that too, because they can help you as well.
Yeah, I love that. So kind of another question I didn't have fully scripted or written out for you today, and it kind of just came up while you were talking, but I've been rewatching this show called Super Pumped. It's about the story of Uber in the early days with the founder, Travis Kalanick. And there's a question that he gets asked by Bill Gurley, who's the kind of principal of Benchmark Capital. And he asks the founder of Uber, and he goes, how sticky is the product? And Travis looks at him and goes, people ride with us twice, they ride with us for life. And that was his only answer. And it was like a big moment in the whole story of Uber. And part of my kind of reason of telling that story is because I want to know, I operate properties. We have a hotel in Kentucky, and then we have about 70 vacation homes. And I haven't found any of our technology to be really sticky, where I have I could dump almost any of them today and move on to another one where it's not fully captured me. What do you think makes a hospitality tech sticky, actually sticky, that where if a group were to leave or if a property were to leave, it would almost be tearing out a part of their body, right?
Yeah. I really think it's the people behind it, because tech is innovating. I mean, tech's growing, modernizing. There are a couple of systems that I won't name that I think have done it so well that make it difficult on the tech side. But what I see as the human side is, if you have really built a partnership and a trust with a company, and this is specific to hospitality because I don't think this is Uber's story, It is very,
No.
very challenging to make that decision. And I've seen that and I've lived it. I've seen in my, old days, I guess, people leaving our former company and coming right back because they're like, we just can't get the level of service relationship, get people on the phone like we can with you. So honestly, I think it's less about the functionality because look, we're in the AI era now, right? I mean, you can do a lot with tech, the AI age, but you can't change the human element. So that's my strong opinion. And that's where I think as hospitality, we do shine as you said it, right? Like we all got into this more for an experience or more for the love of hospitality. We didn't get into this because we like a PMS, And so I think that tech can grow and evolve, but if you don't have the people backing it that you can really trust, I think that's where the stickiness comes in our industry specifically.
Do you think, this is kind of like playing devil's advocate here, so I promise I'm not going on this side, but I just want to maybe like open up the kind of a conversation floor for even the listeners to take into their teams or to their companies. But do you think the reason why it's the people that make it sticky is because no one's created a product that's good enough just to be sticky enough by itself?
Okay, that's a good question, but I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because I've seen some of the stuff coming out right now is really cool. I mean, so we've been really blessed to be able to hear a lot about startups, innovations. I mean, we were in the High-Tech's E20X competition where you really get some of the cream of the crop new products coming out. We look at Muse, they're everywhere. They are shifting our industry, whether we like it or not. But there's still, I think we can all still find things with each of those that would be like, functionality wise, I could probably find it somewhere else. So I don't know. Yeah. I think I'm going to stick to my guns here and say for us, I don't think so. I mean, I do think in a personal sense, there are apps and things we use, even from our business, right? Like we run on Monday.com. So everything we do, communicate internally, content, all of it, Monday.com. And I had just told Stephanie, my co-founder, that we could never leave, even if we found a better deal, because the thought of leaving would be hard. That's a product thing. We're so embedded. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I would love to be proven wrong, even if a listener wants to share. But for me, I think it's, but hopefully maybe someone will come along and make such a wave that it will change that.
Yeah, you don't know. And that's the thing too. It's really hard because Uber, as you stated, like it's a B2C product. It's not a real B2B. Like, yes, they have B2B features and they're launching a bunch of other stuff, but from a B2B perspective, it's way harder to create a sticky product because again, your business is running out, not your life or your favorite choice of Uber Eats or whatever, right? Like there's just a different type of sticky. But kind of leading into my next question, you said you guys love Monday.com. One of the things I wanted to know, since that you have been building and built this incredible company that does kind of vet through all this technology and goes through all these different features and functionality, like just all the stuff, right? Like we can go for, like you said, hours on this topic. But what, given your background, like, are there any particular technologies or apps that you rely on personally? It could be business or professional, like Monday. And how have they influenced you and your thinking about Affixify or hospitality tech in general?
All right, I'm back. Sorry to interrupt, but you have to hear about our partners and friends at Hostfully. Not only are they an amazing property management software, they're an amazing team. I've been friends and partners with Hostfully for over 4 years now, and it's been an amazing 4 years. I can't complain because as I continue to grow my business with our property management company, they continue to update and grow their products and features within the Hostfully platform, and it just gets better over time. So with us, we have a unified inbox, we have amazing marketplace, not only for the rest of our tech stack to integrate, which is awesome because I work with so many people, but then the third piece is the distribution is built in. So you don't have to fully rely on a channel manager. You can actually rely on the amazing integrations that Hostfully has with Airbnb, Verbo, Booking.com, Marriott, Homes and Villas, you name it. They have what you need in order to get your inventory, your properties to the right people. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm going to tell you this anyways. You're going to get a special deal with Hostfully with the link in the show notes. You'll just have to let them know if you love the product and then just tell them that Will sent you. So that way you can get that amazing Slick Talk deal. And of course, we're back to the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah. So I'll give a little of both. So Monday, definitely, although their actual phone app, I'm going to just be honest, is not up to par for me. We use it, but the application on my desktop is great. HubSpot has been for years for me. And I actually was a Salesforce user for many years. So I kind of only knew Salesforce. And then as my consulting business grew a few years ago, I started helping teams implement CRMs, and it was almost always HubSpot. And now I'm so hooked on HubSpot. Here's how that influenced Affixify. We would literally pull screenshots and be like, look how simple this is. We need to mimic that simplicity, you know? And when we went and hired our UI designer, we literally showed, not just from HubSpot, but we would show her like, here's something we use. Here's why we think it's simple. Can you keep that in mind? And I think HubSpot does a beautiful job. I live and die by it. I even get updates. This is a little, I don't know, take it for what it is. But as people read my emails, HubSpot tells me on my home screen. But that's helpful for me from I'm still selling, right? Because we're a small company. So I know like, okay, this prospect opened my email and that's really great. But yeah, I think from a professional perspective, those two, they're sticky. And even if HubSpot came to us tomorrow and said, we're increasing prices for what you use us for, I don't think I could argue it because it's just embedded and Monday too. So on the personal side, I'm a little less exciting. I mean, I am a big Instagram user because that's probably just, I don't know, millennial. I don't know. But the apps I actually use the most are school apps for my kids. And one I love, one I don't. So one I like because it is modeled a little bit after social media. I won't say the name just because it's kind of personal, but the school that uses it, I think they do a wonderful job. It has a feed. So all day I can check like how my kid's doing. Did he get like a bonus point for not talking? Because he's my kid. We talk a lot in this family. Like I love it. I think it's very friendly. Anytime we can design tech to go along with how the user's already using technology in their personal life is smart. And then the other childcare app that my daycare uses for my youngest is very antiquated. Like you try to make a payment and it'll pull you into like a separate browser on your phone and you're like, it's 2024. Why are we doing this? So I think I use both, but I would say that, the other, I guess I can say it's called like Class Dojo. Any parents watching this? They do a good job. They do a really good job. So I think those would be, and Gmail. Gosh, I live by Gmail as well. So.
Yeah. I think, simplicity is the biggest key, right? Like something that we could just easily, naturally, instinctively use, right? Like we know how, like my mom should be able to open up her phone and understand like, if I click here, I think I know where this is going to take me and have an understanding like of just a normal use case. But yeah, I just don't think that's fully here. Going into kind of a different. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say Venmo. I also do a lot of Venmo. I forgot that one. And they do a good job because you said your mom, right? My dad called me last week and he's like, I forgot to pay my lawn guy. Do you have Zelle? And Zelle is, I just think it's kind of clunky. So I'm like over here Zelling his guy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to try to teach him how to do this. I'll just take his $40 in cash and help him out. But Venmo, easy. I use it all the time. So that's another one.
Yeah. No, I love it. Anything simple makes it easy. My dad uses Venmo too. So he's like, oh, this is easy. And it's like, I don't have to send you cash in the mail for your birthday or anything. I can actually just Venmo. It's like, so they're sweetest old people comments. I love it. Sorry, mom and dad. I promise I don't actually think you're old, but
you're listening.
My mom says she watches on Facebook. So I'm always like interested in how she consumes her content. But anyways, a little fun tangent there. But I think, we're in this weird time, right? You and I are recording actually on election day. So for the listeners, this episode's coming out weeks later, but we are actually recording on the day that American people are going to choose their next president, hopefully. And, this is going to not affect, I think it's not going to impact your life fully like the next day. But obviously, I think there's, we're all thinking about the future. We're all thinking about what's the future of our world look like? What does the future of our industry look like? And one of the questions or kind of like areas I wanted to go to was the future of hotel staffing. And so many people in Silicon Valley and other parts of the world are saying that, future of startups, right, is going to be a unicorn business that is just the founder and maybe one or two human employees and a bunch of AI agents, where they're going to be depending on AI to really build this company. And that's how startups going to be. They're no longer going to need to raise 200 million to hire more people and more of this, more of that, and have hundreds, if not thousands of employees. Do you think the same thing can or will happen in our industry when AI and potentially even things like robotics becoming more of a thing? I'm seeing more on that on LinkedIn for housekeeping and maintenance. So like, how might this affect, hiring and training in hospitality?
Yeah. Oh, this is a big topic. So I got to gather my thoughts only because I have strong opinions. I have strong opinions on everything, apparently. So do I see a day?
We want all the strong opinion for scale.
Let's do this. So you saw Elon Musk revealed I'm not going to remember the name of them, but his robots. And he literally said, use them as your babysitter. And as a mother, I'm like, are you absolutely insane? Right. So we have to think of our audience. I love Elon, but I'm just saying. So do I see a day in hospitality? No, I don't know. I think some hotels will be able to adopt robotics and there will be a niche for that. I don't think as an industry, this is going to be something we see all the time. I think it's too risky for such a personal industry. Now, AI, I think it needs to be refined. I have a hard time because we talk to so many vendors, right? You hear vendors, we're applying AI or we've done a little AI here. And it's like, what does that even mean right now? Because people tell us like, oh, you should use AI and do X, Y, Z. So like, I think we first have a hurdle to define what is AI in tech. What is like true AI and what is just some cool development that we're calling AI. Like I had someone tell me once that autocorrect features in our iPhone, that's AI. I don't know. I'm like, what is it? So to answer your question, I think there's too much we don't know to really see the future. I think a lot of what we're trying, I think some of it's going to stick, but I think we're too personal of an industry for this to really go all the way. Whereas, there are some spaces I don't think people care as much about the personal touch. So in an industry specific area, I think we'll see a little, honestly, in a business, just straight up startups. I struggle with it because, for example, like I'll get cold emails. You get them all the time. Yeah. And they're never, you can tell when someone's using an AI tool. Like I got one the other day, it was hilarious. This lady, she's a matchmaker, a literal matchmaker, not what I'm doing, and she's in Dallas. And I knew she used AI because I get a message and it says, I looked at your LinkedIn profile. And if you're single, well, actually I'm not, because in my profile, it'll say I'm married. So I'm like, you didn't look at my profile because you would know. So of course I'm like, it's not her fault or she's using AI. So I think for a startup to go that route, and I'm a bootstraps founder, so it sounds great. We would love to have someone help with our sales without investing in a full-time person. I don't know if we're there yet. What do you think?
Well, as more of a, do you think we're always going to have to be so human capital intensive for hospitality? That's where I'm struggling, because it is a lot of money. And I think with the turnover that we've seen in the industry, and granted, this is all due to our own madness, right? We create this environment that makes employees not want to stay. It could be culture, it could be pay, it could be, team, whatever. That could be brand, but it's so heavy. People, and people make mistakes. People have anger issues. If a guest is yelling at them, they can snip back. Like there's right, and then cleaners, if they call out sick or something is broken, or I don't know. There's just so many pieces, and I think about the future of startups outside of hospitality, and if they're going leaner, more AI focused, less capital intensive when it comes to fundraising, so founders actually own more equity of the company when they go public or get acquired or whatever, and have better outcomes. I'm just thinking of the hoteliers that constantly just feel like they're pulling their hair out with just having such a human intensive business. So like, and that's the thing, it's hard because we're all about humans. Like we want the connection. I love getting to chat with my team. I love getting to see guests. I love getting to do that. But when it comes to actually running the business, it's so so much room for human error. So I'm always curious, like, would the hotel hospitality industry ever get to a point where it can rely less on humans for busy work, and maybe kind of like you'll probably hear like the front desk checklist that all these agents have to do with their old legacy property management softwares, and like getting rid of that, right? And so it's just one of the things I think, as we focus more on profitability and efficiency and actually being a sustainable business, not an eco-friendly sustainability, but actual business sustainability, that's where I'm always kind of like juggling. So I'm open. I just think, the technology isn't fully there. And I know we're all trying to get there, but it's like, we kind of need something now. Like we kind of like, people are quitting their job today. People are checking in today. Like people are checking out today. Like it's not stopping for tech. So just a flurry of thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think so. I do see what you're saying a little more. I think to increase efficiencies and help, 100%. I just, like to your point, I don't think we're there yet. And what you don't want to do is add more tech that requires more manpower to keep up with or implement or figure out, and then you get more frustration. So you're defeating your own purpose there. Yeah, it's tough. And we are in a very high touch industry, so I don't know. Yeah. Hospitality.
It's a tough one. And
for sure.
100%. And I would love the listeners, if you guys have stuff that you're hearing or listening to that can apply to this conversation, I think both you and I would love to know, because as I look through all of our podcast pitches or all the potential sponsors, and as you guys are going through all the vendors and the hoteliers are requiring certain features, I'm sure there's just someone that's like, can I just have a robot go clean the room and like have my one person in the lobby like pouring wine and beer and making sure the guests are having a great time? Like, there's got to be something, but I don't know. There's a future conversation in there somewhere, but Jasmine, one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, and I did give you a quick heads up on this one because it's going to involve numbers, but for the listeners' sake, I think we've talked a lot about technology and how you can shop and vet and make sure, obviously, if a product's going to be sticky, potentially that means the team's really good. You're going to have good service behind the training, behind the other stuff. But what defines success in hospitality technology? So how should hotels measure the success of a new technology implementation? What KPIs or metrics do you think are the most valuable for them to pay attention to?
Yeah, so I would turn it to your efficiencies internal first. So I think you have to look at, when implementing new tech, there's two things. There's the impact on your staff, and then there's the impact on your guest. So what I would warn us is to be careful of not looking at like, how many days did it take us to implement? Because that's not exactly telling. There's too many players at stake, right? Like your main project manager got sick for 2 weeks. Well, then that's going to delay you. But what I would actually look at is, if you're not doing this, some kind of satisfaction score from a staff perspective, first of all. So once you're implemented, knowing you have found the right fit would be asking your staff, asking boots on the ground, like, what do you think of this? Rate this tech, 1 to 10. I don't know. You come up with that scale. But I would first say, look at how it's impacting your staff. And then I would look at your, literally, right, like your guest wait times, how check-in times, has that improved at all? Because that's going to tell you. Now, again, there's some subjectivity to that, because if I'm a new staff member, I might check in a little slower. But I think generally you should be looking at those things, have those things improved. Gather your data now with your current system. So when you make the switch, you can see if things have been quicker, more efficient. And then, of course, your guest satisfaction scores, because I think we often look at the experience as, the glass of wine or, whatever it is that we're providing, but we're not considering the experience that technology is creating without the guest even knowing it, right? So I checked in last week to a hotel for the hospitality show. It was halfway there. I was in Austin. And I've never taken that long to be checked in. And we were the only people there. And I kind of felt bad for this gentleman. I think he was the owner. And I sat there and I thought, I wonder what PMS he's using that this is so arduous, because there's no way they were booked up. So that's the kind of thing I'm saying is, look at, and then my experience was iffy because of that. And then the room wasn't clean, but he said, well, my system says it's clean. I felt really bad for him. So I'm like, that's not good. So that, the guest journey and experience will inevitably be impacted. So start paying attention to your guest satisfaction scores as well, and look at how your tech can have a good or a bad impact on those. That's what I would say.
That's a great starting point, because I think it is about the efficiencies, right? We need to become more profitable as a industry, especially for the lodging sector. I think these are thin margins we're working with, especially if you're in a management company role rather than an owner role. So there's so many things that go into it, and I love that. I love that point. Jasmine, there's tons of other questions I could have asked you. We could have definitely gone on for probably 2 hours, if not more, around AI and around, potential super apps and travel. So I think this is a great excuse for me to kind of tell the listeners, if you liked this episode, you should ping me and Jasmine 1,000 times to do another one. Part 2, kind of situation.
Part 2.
There we go. Yeah. So let's get a part 2 out there. But Jasmine, this has been so much fun. I truly love getting to see you emerge in this space. I remember logging into LinkedIn one day and just seeing you on my feed as a recommended connection / you had a post. And I was trying to remember what the post was, but I was like, holy crap, finally someone's doing the thing. I think I told you on our pre-chat that I'm glad I didn't do this, because I probably wouldn't have done it the way you've done it in the best way possible, because I probably would have just been all right, screw it. Let's just do this and see what happens. So I love the approach. I love the method. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the show today. It's been quite the engaging conversation.
Thank you. I'm super honored to be here. I've followed you for a while. I love what you guys are doing. And when you asked me to talk, I had told Stephanie, my business partner, I'm like, this is a big deal. I'm super excited to talk to Wil. So thank you. And part 2. Because we can't be like Joe Rogan and do 2 hours. We got to build up to that. So part 2 it is. Yeah,
definitely. And next time we'll have wine. We'll make that part of the experience. Maybe do a later evening happy hour. But yes, Jasmine, the number one question I always ask everyone at the end to make sure that listeners are able to connect with you beyond the pod. Where's the one place you would want people to go to? I know you're big on LinkedIn, but I would love to know if there's anything that you want the listeners to kind of check out.
Yeah, so I would actually lead you to our website, which sounds super cliche, but we've done, and we've been told by outside opinions that we've done a good job walking you through the journey of how simple it is to use Affixify. It's free for hoteliers. So it's literally getaffixify.com. Awesome. There is a section there just for hotels, walks you through the process. And honestly, if that's scary, please just find me on LinkedIn. I'm on it constantly. That's where 99% of our business come from. And message me. And I'd love to chat more.
I love it. Well, Slick Talkers, you heard it here first. The links will be in the show notes. Jasmine's LinkedIn and, of course, getaffixify.com will be on there as well. We appreciate you guys supporting the show, supporting people like Jasmine. So keep tuning in each week, because it means the most. And like always, we'll see you on the next one.
See you later.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Wil Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.